apparently, Trump has frozen grants and frozen money to top universities.
The major clash is now unfolding between President Trump and his battle against some of America's top universities, announcing this evening more than $2.2 billion in federal funding
Billion
has been
dollars.
frozen for multi year grants and contracts at Harvard. That comes after Harvard.
Well, they got enough money, right? Like, Harvard has a lot of money. Especially all these universities, they have a lot of money. Like, let's look it up. 52 billion. Delivers 9.6 returns. That's crazy. That's insane. You know how much that is? The value of Harvard's endowment grew to 53.2 billion. That's a lot of money. Let me make sure I'm talking about the right thing. Okay, funds or property donated to an institution. Group as a source of income. HMC. Okay, what I know is, or what someone told me, is that endowment funds is how much money they have invested. And 9.6 returns, 9.6%, that's how much money they get back. And because they've been here for like 300 years, time is on their side. Compound interest, it's already snowballing. It's been snowballing since 200 years ago. And once that compound interest goes, like, you can't spend all of that. It's impossible. Not impossible. You definitely could if you're stupid enough. But it's a lot of money. It's hard to spend all of it. Even though they froze the funding, 2.2 billion, that's what? 4%? 4% is nothing for them. They got a lot of money. And especially all the money they waste on useless stuff. Like college funding, some of it's important. Like if you look at China, if you look at other countries, they're spending it on science, technologies. But if you're using it for gender studies, what are you doing?
Harvard said tonight that it was rejecting a list of demands from the administration on sweeping changes and would fight back
Sweeping
against them.
changes.
Those demands came from a federal task force that the administration says is combating anti Semitism on college campuses.
Hold on. They use big words. I have to break them down. To prevent anti Semitism. So to prevent the hate on Jews, okay?
Protests against the war in Gaza. But the list of demands included things like dismantling diversity initiatives,
Dismantling what?
in Gaza. But the list of demands included things like dismantling diversity initiatives,
Dismantling diversity initiatives. What does that even mean? Oh, okay. They want to be more racist, is what I'm hearing. Dismantling diversity initiatives. That means if diversity initiatives means you want more inclusion, you want more diversity, and now they want to get rid of that.
auditing academic
Okay.
and hiring practices, and also installing leaders who are committed to White House.
Oh, yo, I heard this thing. Back then there was a news article or a study that came out. It said black people are more prone to get into higher education or like elite colleges because of diversity. Like if you look at Asians, bro, there's way too much. You look at computer science, medical, accounting, all those are filled. Engineering, they're filled with Asian population. So they're really selective. They're like, oh, we have enough of those. We need some of these, and they limit you because you might be Asian and have insane grades, insane extracurricular, but they won't accept you because they need to set aside certain space for uh what do you call it, the minority.
House said to implementing the changes they want to see. We saw a response from Harvard tonight and the legal team responding to that saying, quote, the university will not surrender its independence.
Okay.
It can allow it's at stake here is just a fraction
University funding.
of the neither Harvard nor any other private university can.
Private university. These are If all these are private, how are they receiving funding from the government? I thought they meant like state schools.
Dollars that's at stake here. Harvard's decision, though, appears to be the first time that we have seen a school directly refusing to comply.
Damn, Harvard got the most money. Look at that. 9 billion. 9 billion. Oh, I mean, most of you won't know, but Harvard actually has the most studies. Like if you look on Google Scholar, the most health studies come from Harvard. And the sneaky thing is they have so much studies. You can lean your study one way or another because there's so many studies. Because of so many studies, so many subjects, so many tests, you have those outliers, and there's enough outliers that you can steer it this way. Be like, oh, 100,000 studies say this, while there's like billions of studies. It's just a higher scale.
This comes as the Harvard faculty chapter of the American Association of University.
Harvard professors sue Trump? How do you do that? I don't know you could sue the president. Like what? It's like, oh, my business failed because of the tariffs. I'm gonna sue Trump. How does that even work? I didn't think you could sue someone in the government. Like police officers, other judges, yeah, but Trump, president? It's like back then, it's like, yo, this king made me impoverished. I'm gonna sue the king. No, you're gonna get beheaded. You're gonna you're gonna get exiled.
Professors and its national counterparts sued the Trump administration. My
I don't
source
know you could
tonight
do
is the
that.
Harvard law professor in his first TV interview since that suit was filed. And so thank you so much, Lance, to the administration. Does that have?
Obviously,
Honestly, I'm surprised he doesn't have a cap. You know what I'm saying? Suing the
deeply disappointing and a real blow, not just to Harvard, and has the leader. It's cuts that happens at these universities that are essential to having a free democracy. And that's, I think, exactly
essential to having. I don't know. Might be a stretch. Essential to having. You know what degrees? All right, hold on. They don't care. These colleges, they don't care. But look, let's look it up. Degrees unemployed. I'm trying to find it. There's a hilarious video. It was like a bunch of people flexing their useless degrees. Let me see if I do it. Useless degrees. I feel like it's NYU. Oh, it's right here.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm studying the unseen body and creative spaces of Asian exposure to queer.
Hey, I'm Nina, and I
Yo,
studied
unemployed.
the arts, education, and social justice.
Unemployed.
Decolonial intimacies, indigenous politics, and resistance.
Unemployed.
Remembering or forgetting, navigating international conflict through collective memory.
Hi, I'm Kira,
That's a
and
thing.
I study textiles and environmental justice. Hi, I'm Nunyala.
Unemployed.
I'm studying living artfully, art as ritual therapy, and pathways to decoloniality.
Unemployed. All of these are these are crazy. Leftist students brag about ridiculous woke study majors.
I'm Natalie, and I'm studying fashion history and gender studies.
What are you gonna study? Robes? You're gonna study grass they made back then? What job are you gonna find? I don't even know what they're saying. The politics of global economies. Okay. Radical disruption for survival.
And my concentration is the radical disruption for survival, development in sub-Saharan Africa, and social anthropology.
Okay, they're just. These degrees are a drag. I don't know.
Hi, I'm Ava, and I study
On woman, fugitive.
family, relationships, and identity. The Black woman.
All of them are unemployed. Unemployed. 100%. If you look them up, unemployed.
the reason why they're all under attack. So the impact is significant, but I'm really proud to see Harvard step.
Again, remember, they have like 50 million or billion in funding. That's only 4% that they froze.
Ending up to fight.
Well, you filed your lawsuit before we saw how Harvard was going to respond tonight, and essentially you were arguing.
And you know how much the CEO or the president makes? It's insane. Yeah, 1.3 mil. Outgoing Harvard president Lawrence Bacow earned 1.3 mil in 2021. That's insane. They make a lot of money. You know why they're not trying to, they don't want to give it out because their endowment, the endowment they control. Of course, you got to go to like the board of directors. There's a lot of process, but you can't just, you want to take money in. They don't want to just leave money on the table. Once you leave money on the table, the government's like, oh, we don't have to give them funding.
The threat to cut this funding violates free speech and other First Amendment rights here. Given Harvard is the first school that we've seen respond this way, how does that impact your lawsuit, and what does that mean for this going forward?
Well, I think the Trump administration's decision to cut $2.2 billion from Harvard tonight makes clear just how essential this lawsuit is and how critical this fight is, and why it's so important for Harvard and really every university in the country.
They got a lot of money
To take a stand at this critical moment, because this is a clear, unquestionable violation of First Amendment rights.
First Amendment rights. Well, you are taking money from him. It is kind of like lobbying. You're taking money from him. He's telling you what to do, kind of like a job. If you can't do this job properly, like they want you to, yeah, they're gonna take money back. Whoever has the money has the power. Unless you got leverage. What leverage does college have? There's millions, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of universities.
You mentioned some of the demands that the administration has made of Harvard. It includes things like trying to appoint a federally named oversight official to do an audit of every course, every department at Harvard to see.
Every course, okay. Every department, okay. You could cut out all the bullshit. You know, like there's a lot of degrees out there. Like we just saw that you don't really need. You're not going to get a job. You're not improving the economy in any way. Other universities, other countries, they're focusing on science, technology. What are we doing? I don't know.
See if we have ideological balance to meet the Trump administration's test for what we teach and what we say at these universities. It's a transparent effort to change what is taught, what we say in our classrooms, what we teach our students, to make sure that the only things that are actually said on university campuses are things that the Trump administration wants to hear and want.
Well, yeah, it goes back to the saying. It's like whoever has money has the power. Unless you have leverage, you don't have leverage. And he doesn't like what we're doing to the future. Our future, imagine we focus on science. From the day we realized there was such thing as silence or science, like from the day Newton discovered gravity, imagine we just kept going for science. Probably goes way back before, but once we discovered science, we're like, yo, you know how much we could do if we just focus on science? Like if we just focus on one thing? Is it still okay? Just checking if I'm recording. But if we focus on science, bro, we could live like 10,000 years in the future. But no, we had to invent stupid stuff. People back then are saying like, oh, in the year 2000, we'll have flying cars. I think we do have some, but no, it's actually TikTok. We have TikTok. We have Instagram.
Wants to be said. This is a move that happens in countries across the world when there are efforts to try to make an authoritarian play in government. Institutions that are essential to civil society, like the press, like the courts, like the legal profession, and universities are the first to come under attack. And that's what we've been seeing over the first few weeks of this administration, with that attack on universities coming full.
Well, if he's auditing it for the right reasons, that means he's protecting our future. Like he wants to move forward in our future, in our country. You can't have other countries that are focusing on science. They're getting way ahead.
Full and hardened.
It's like what's that called? The arms race back then during the Cold War. Russia and United States, they rushed. They were like trying to get nuclear arms up and ready as fast as possible. And we might be there, maybe.
Now, and this is the moment when it's so essential for those universities to take a stand. And if there's any university in the world that has the resources to do that and the moral leadership to do that, it's Harvard, and I am proud to call myself a member of this faculty today.
And so when the administration is arguing that this is actually about combating anti-Semitic what was playing out, and the attorneys acknowledged tonight in their letter denying that they're going to comply with the demands, they say, quote, Harvard is a very different place than it was a year ago.
That's exactly right. Look, I've spent my professional life fighting racism and intolerance in the United States. Anti-Semitism is vile and has no place in this country. But these actions are not about anti-Semitism, they're about authoritarianism. And we know that because we can see what the Trump administration...
I think racism is just, it's like an excuse. Like, yeah, it makes your life harder, but in America, we all have equal opportunity. You get the best opportunity here. I could have been born in China working on $3 an hour, maybe 3 hours a day. I could have been born in who knows where, like Bali, Indonesia, Thailand, where I get paid $7 a month. We're actually blessed to be in America. Racism? Like, what racism? People look at you funny? Doesn't matter to me as long as you have to figure a way out. It's not like I don't care. It's more like people just treat you differently. Yes, it does make it harder, but we have insane amounts of luck to be here in the United States. Out of what, 8 billion people, we're one of the, I think, 300 million in US. Could have born in any other third world country. We'd be fucked.
Administration has said and what it has done. This is a president who, when he was campaigning for office, said that he didn't like what was taught at America's universities and that he was...
Well, yeah, because we're teaching too much nonsense.
...going to bankrupt them unless they started teaching something different. We can see this when we see the head of the task force that's responsible for these investigations saying that this is about ideological viewpoint balance.
Come on, remember the previous video. It's like, we're gonna make inequality, whatever. All those degrees, unemployed. Look at their LinkedIn, unemployed.
At these universities. We can see it when we see the Vice President of the United States say that universities and their professors are the enemy. This is not about anti-Semitism. This is about an effort to try to break the backs of American universities until they start saying what the administration wants to hear. Because the administration knows that universities are a central component of a free and open constitutional democracy.
This is a lot about power, like whoever has power. Once the administration has power, they get to say like what gets taught, what doesn't.
The Trump administration's demand letter that was made public today and sent to Harvard on Friday asks for things that have...
How do you think they send it? You think they send it mail? There's no way. You know how much mail Harvard gets? All those admission letters from kids that didn't get accepted. They're like, please accept me. I'm a minority. Pigeon mail, email, text to the president. It's a letter.
Nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It requires us to try to change who is hired, what we teach in our classrooms, what we say in our research. It says that it is trying to create ideological rebalance.
Okay. Is that actually equal opportunity? Like if you cut it out, if you cut out all the, what's that thing called, diversity quotas, like, oh, we accepted enough Asian people, is it equal to have diversity requirements, quotas? Because if someone is actually better, but you can't hire them, you can't accept them because you reach your quota, but you didn't reach your quota for another race, is that actually fair? Is that equal?
That's code, and actually not even code. It's pretty transparent. That is a message that's saying, we don't like what you're teaching. We want you to teach something more to our liking. And unless you do that, we're going to try to bankrupt your institution.
Bankrupt is tough. They could hold off for a couple of years.
We'll be following it closely.
They could hold off for a while because a lot of students are coming. A lot of students have the tuition to come, and most of it, it's like, they could definitely get pretty lean in their operations. Like right now, they're wasting a lot of resources.
Closely, Andrew Manuel Crespo, thank you for joining us tonight for an interview.
schools that persist in
Oh, here he goes.
explicit unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment.
That's crazy. Imagine that. It's like, I mean, is Harvard even here now? Like the founders of Harvard, they're not here, but maybe their kids are. They're living off that endowment trust fund. But imagine that, like 300 years to build all of this, and it just disappears like that.
I think if any of us want to do the things that we want to do for our country and for the people who live in it, we have to honestly and aggressively attack the universities in this country.
Ooh.
Joining the group chat today, Phil Mattingly, CNN anchor and chief domestic correspondent.
Well, that's where most of the ideas are taught. You're not where you taught things. Everyone gets a certain viewpoint agenda from somewhere. And where does everyone go, or majority of people? College. Of course, they go to elementary, middle school, high school, which is where all the programming happens.
Correspondent Gabby Birnbaum, Washington correspondent for the Nevada Independent, and Kevin Fry, Washington correspondent for Spectrum News, New York 1. Everybody, I want to just start with what the president is trying to do, because in that old clip we played, here's a list of demands, comply, or I'm going after your federal funding. So sort of who name it.
Not view what's happening here in isolation, right? We've been talking about this for the last several months, where the agility and kind of relentless nature with which the Trump administration and top senior advisors who have been planning for this for several years have really, to your point, initially bent institutions that never saw this coming, even though Trump talked about it on the campaign trail, to their will.
I mean, yeah, colleges never saw it coming because they're so huge. They have other stuff to worry about. Gender studies. It's important.
Has been something that people are just starting to kind of get their head around, and Harvard being the first school to say no is a fascinating moment to see whether this is the start of a tipping point.
And if there's any school that can do it, it's Harvard. It has a massive endowment.
You know what would be crazy? There is so much bachelor's degrees in the US now that massive amounts of people are unemployed. There was a pilot on TikTok. He was like, I can't get a job. He was so lenient. He's like, oh, I'll fly to Hawaii tomorrow, Thursday. And the people like, oh, I don't know.
But meanwhile, Columbia faced a similar predicament, quickly caved. Kevin, talk about the dynamics there that are different.
Right. I mean, look, they were the center point of the anti-Semitism accusations early on. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik and other top lawmakers in Washington have been very loudly condemning what happened there because they really became the face of the protest movement.
And that made them vulnerable to public backlash and vulnerable to political backlash.
Correct. And you also saw those dramatic images that played out when you saw the police go onto campus and they took over the building. And I mean, this kind of built and built and built. And so they were already...
Oh, this is for that?
Under the microscope in that respect. And then they come in and they basically comply with a lot of what the administration...
I thought they were talking more about the classes. I didn't know this was a major problem for them.
...is looking for, including sort of this mask ban and other sort of curriculum oversight, including on their Middle East studies program. And then on top of that, there's now conversations about whether or not there should be some sort of judicial oversight of whether or not they are in compliance.
Right. I don't want to just skip by some of the things you said.
I mean, that should be fine. It's a peaceful protest. But remembering back, some universities, they were not so peaceful.
Into
we'll see.
Actual curriculum. So we want to tell you, or at least be able to look at what you're teaching, which is ironic since they're kind of dismantling the ed department. But they want to do this in higher ed. Democrats and their allies coming to universities' defense. Here's a sense of what they've been saying.
Is putting pressure on universities as well. Good.
Look at... Okay. There's two people with their hair dyed. Blue, green.
Good news is Harvard University today said, go to hell.
That may break the fever.
Damn.
I
He used to smoke.
really hope it does. I do know this. If Harvard had capitulated,
I don't understand what he says. He's like, he should be on the commercials. Like, I used to smoke. I used to be a smoker.
I really fear for what next year would be.
There are things that matter more than simply the size of one's endowment. We need the presidents to be banding together and standing up for free expression.
Gabby, I probably could have stopped with Clyburn because he really lays out the stakes. But what are you hearing in congressional delegations? What are you hearing in your reporting about people seeing this as like a pivotal moment?
I think Democrats in general have been waiting for somebody, some institution, some group to stand up and say, you know, we're not going to abide by this. And I think Harvard, right, the big dog of academia, doing it. I think we'll see, but I would imagine gives permission for some smaller universities, those with endowments that aren't as large, that don't have that, you know, multiple hundreds of years history to say we can outlast.
See, there you go. Hundreds of years, 300 years endowment every year. The extra gets put back in. Some universities say nonprofit. Yeah, okay.
Any one political moment or administration to sort of band with them. And I think we'll see some former Biden legal officials have talked about law firms need to do the same, that if they stand together, it'll be easier to stand against some of this rhetoric and action coming from the Trump administration. And so I'll see what moves forward.
The major class.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like they're actually cracking down. Like some universities, they have. Is my mic on? All right, it's still on. But some universities, like, they teach a bunch of nonsense, and we're finally cracking down on them because there's a bunch of people with no jobs, and it's not because they don't have a college degree. Now we all have a college degree. The problem is the value you have, the expertise you have. You look at any job listing, it says entry level, no experience required. Then you look at the description, you scroll down, it says 2 years experience required. Like, what? Where am I getting that? So most people, they go to college, they think they're guaranteed a job after. They come right out looking for a job. Can't get one. It's only for the people that actually try hard in school, actually focused on their studies, look for internships, and they're prepared out of school. They get right into a job because they have internship, they have expertise. But even other fields like plumbing, electrician, once you come out, it's a valuable skill. Who's gonna fix the electrical problems? Who's gonna fix the plumbing when it floods, when it clogs? Someone has to do it. The builders, the construction workers, people have to build houses. It's certain fields that you're just needed. You need it. Septic tank removers, those people that use a huge tube and suck up all the poop in the septic tanks. Oil grease trap cleaners, like, we all need them. But if you go to college and you get gender studies, like, I could go a day without it. I could go a day without my gender studies therapist. You go to them, they immediately say, don't you feel like a woman trapped in a man's body? I'm like, what? You could go years without them. You could go lifetimes without them. It's only when we have so much freedom, peace of mind, we don't have to worry about anything. We start to wonder. We're like, oh, how would it be to be this? How would it be to do that? You start wondering. If you look at other countries, they never have these problems. You look at Vietnam. They're too busy making clothes. They're too busy catching fish, trying to make a living. They don't have time to be like, I feel like I'm not this gender. They don't have time for that. So for the government to finally step in and cut funding, unless they comply, like, oh, what to teach, it, in a sense, it does propel us forward. But in terms of other people that have other passions, they might feel attacked. That's my take on it. But yeah, I'll wrap this up for the government freezing funding for not public, but universities. The government freezing funding for universities.